Prosecutors in the murder trial of George Zimmerman may have had their most important day yet. Last year, the man who shot and killed Trayvon Martin said he did not know about Florida's Stand Your Ground law. But yesterday, a former college professor testified Zimmerman got an A in his criminal justice class that included talk of self-defense and stand your ground.
You know, with Florida and other states, they have what's called the Stand Your Ground law, which evolved from the Castle Doctrine through case law.
And did you cover that specifically?
Yes.
Did you discuss specifically self-defense and stand your ground laws in the connection of violent crimes such as murder?
Yes.
CBS News legal analyst Jack Ford is watching the case. Jack, good morning.
Anthony, good morning to you.
How significant is the professor's testimony, do you think?
Could be very important, and here's why. At its core, this case is all about George Zimmerman's credibility. Now, usually, as you know, a defendant has no obligation to prove anything in a criminal case, except if you introduce a defense of self-defense. Then there is an obligation for a defendant to come forward with some degree of proof. And here, this case is all about what version the jury wants to accept. Because if they accept the prosecution's version that George Zimmerman was the instigator, well, then he can't rely on self-defense. You can't start a fight and then say, you know what, I'm not doing well here, I'm going to pull my gun and blow this guy away. If they accept George Zimmerman's version that Trayvon Martin was the instigator and he had a reasonable fear for his safety, then self-defense can work. So credibility is so important. And here, a witness who was not on anybody's radar screen beforehand. Why it could become important is this. George Zimmerman said in an interview, I didn't know anything about stand your ground defense until after this happened. This witness comes in and says, no, that's not true. He did know something about it. So the prosecution is going to say to the jurors, you can't believe it. Real quick thing to understand, jurors are told by judges that if they find that a witness didn't tell the truth about something, they can choose to disregard everything that witness says if they want to. They're also told they can choose to say, okay, didn't tell the truth about one thing, but we still believe him about everything else. So this could be a very important witness for the prosecution, depending upon how the jury views it.
We also got some key DNA evidence yesterday.
That was interesting, Nancy, because this case, as opposed to so many other murder cases, is not about forensics. It's not about DNA. It's not about fingerprints. It's not about any of these. We know what happened in terms of how the death happened. What we don't know is who started this fight. So the DNA evidence here, I think it was important for the prosecution because it's kind of window dressing. You know, the CSI effect. Jurors now expect to see some of this. And in some ways, it goes again to the credibility because George Zimmerman has said that Trayvon Martin was reaching for my gun. I got it first and had to use it, although one of his friends said he told him that Trayvon Martin actually grabbed the gun. This evidence saying there was no DNA of Trayvon Martin on the gun, again, goes to the credibility of George Zimmerman. And as we said before, that's the core here. Ultimately, what is the jury going to think and whose version are they going to accept?
And quickly, Jack, one other thing the court ruled yesterday was that they could go more into the past of Zimmerman, including talking about the fact that he applied to be a police officer. How important is that?
It was interesting. Usually, a case is tried on the facts of that case alone. You can't go into other things beforehand. But here, the prosecution's theory is George Zimmerman was a wannabe cop. And the prosecution is claiming that's his motivation for initiating this conflict here with Trayvon Martin. So again, could be something that could be helpful for the prosecution.
Got it. Jack Ford, happy 4th.
And to you also.
Good to see you.